Hello and welcome to acess21, our fourth annual Aptitude User Conference. We have an exciting and informative lineup for you this year, which as you can see will once again be brought to you through your computer. You know, I've had the opportunity to get reacquainted with many of you over the past few months, which has been a delightful experience. And our goal is to host this event in person again. But this year we determined it was better to keep the program virtual, which, you know, it has its perks, right? We're expecting to shatter another attendance record. We have interactive capabilities built into the show. We can provide a more diverse speaker set, given we don't need everyone to be in the same location at the same time. Finally, this is being recorded, so it can be viewed at a later date. You can share with your colleagues, or like me, watch it with the family on Saturday night. And I'm joined today with Bryan. Bryan Grossman, SVP of Aptitude. Bryan, welcome to the virtual stage. I know if there were people here that you would receive thunderous amounts of applause, right?
Absolutely, Justin, okay. Absolutely.
Hey, so Aptitude, it's seen some pretty exciting growth. As we like to say, the future looks bright, right? So you and I are gonna walk through some of this, but maybe before we dive in, any opening comments or statements you wanna make?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first, the growth of Aptitude, Justin, like you mentioned, would not be possible without our customers. So big thank you to all of our providers and suppliers that have really supported us over the past several years. I could not be more excited about the future and the advancements we have made to not only the technology, but really also how we have broadened our capabilities in and around the platform by infusing our category experts, our data, and market insights to really help put providers and suppliers in a position to drive a more comprehensive and sustainable value proposition.
Yeah, that's great. And this idea of category management and how that approach really brings value to both providers and suppliers, it's a unique experience in the industry. And I think we were kind of talking before we look at a few visuals to support the story. There are some points we thought we could kind of point out to you guys. While Aptitude is known for its technology, there is a people component, which honestly has always been there to support adoption, but it's really evolved to provide an informative layer of market and clinical expertise. If you think about our team, how they're interacting with a diverse set of businesses, both on the provider side and supplier side, really across the country, they harness a wealth of experience, which is shared through collaboration with our customer set. So, the first takeaway for me, at least, is that Aptitude is more than a technology.
Yeah, and I would say what's neat is you see this evolution in the industry where we're seeing more of a kind of a clinically integrated supply chain, the ability for our resources and our technologies to start to interface with clinical stakeholders, service line leads, as well as supply chain, really to put together a more comprehensive value proposition between the supplier and the provider. I think it's been neat to kind of see that connectivity, if you will, within the providers.
Yeah, very true.
So the second point is, that Aptitude is more than contracting. So when we launched, the ease of use by which you could create and send an RFP kind of rose to the top and really was the function of our brand and how it was associated in the market. But it's really much more than that. And where we are today with using the term category management is really a great descriptor. It's not contract management, nor is it based on a single event. It's about the category, transparency, insight, metrics, analytics, really staying engaged with your organization and your supply partners to really maximize that relationship. And at the same time, we are providing the data, technology, and expertise to really facilitate an optimal experience, if you will, for both parties, of which an agreement is a component. But really only one aspect of managing to that total cost of care. So number two, Justin, I think we've started to get at this, is really Aptitude is more than a contract.
Yeah, that's a great clarification. And I think, finally, as we think about this, it's not your parents' Aptitude. And okay, we've only been in the market 8 years, but the point is that this is really the most significant change in how we position our capabilities. And we've also significantly enhanced the value we offer. So much of our legacy in how we improve, has been really listening to our customers and making those changes, through that feedback. And that's still true, but we've gone on our own little, merger and acquisition effort, I guess you might say. We're incorporating aspects of the larger business that already exists. We're aligning those data sets with the goal of driving a single experience where you can automate, accelerate, and align your efforts in coordination with your supply partner. So from a spend management aspect, at least, the clinical component, a transparent relationship. We feel what we offer is unique and defining in the industry. And we'll share details of this throughout the show. But remember, we are significantly changing how you think of aptitude. So, all right, let's start to look at this a little bit closer. All right, so Aptitude is Vizient's new category management solution. And what we mean by that is really establishing this kind of end-to-end connectivity, right? And Aptitude provides that automation, the analysis, the ability to stay informed, really manage your strategy and infuse clinical expertise holistically. Now that's how you describe it. That's how we're talking about it. And then you start to look at the unique value sets for both the providers and a supplier. So from a provider standpoint, really helping them plan and execute a personalized strategy to achieve that custom value. I mean, we're seeing that a lot in the industry, and we're here to support that through our data technology and also the subject matter expertise. And then when you think about supplier side, it's really helping them establish and grow those strategic partnerships through the same access to data, technology, and subject matter expertise. We're really helping these relationships mature and grow really throughout the industry.
Yeah, and I think, Justin, it really speaks to our ability to really bring together key elements of our organization in more of a programmatic fashion, really to provide an end-to-end experience like you mentioned. And it's really one that does not start and stop with a contract, but rather enhances the overall life cycle and really moves interactions from what I'd say have historically been more transactional to more strategic in nature. And I think that's a really exciting journey that we've been on.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so our next slide here is really kind of jumping in a little bit deeper into the provider side. We talked about the planning aspect of it and the ability to execute, which I think is key too, because there's a lot of ways that a lot of inputs, if you will, that providers are looking to help form their strategy, and we certainly help. But we also, that execution of that strategy, I think, is important. And it really starts with kind of that market perspective, right? Yeah. So what's happening out there, and almost where do I stand, right? What can we do? What's achievable? And giving you that holistic, overarching perspective. And then I think we've seen a lot of connection. You kind of mentioned this a minute ago. Is this clinical alignment and really getting around approaching your value analysis teams, having those discussions with physicians, using the data sets, the analytics that we have, and we're there to help you, with that as well. That's really important. We've seen a lot of strides there. We talked about speed to value. That is still a core component of what we do today, but again, only a component. We've taken steps to automate parts of the process that really help accelerate that. And then I think it's always been our differentiator is that ability to really manage to it. So as you mentioned, it's more than a one-time event. It's staying engaged, and we provide that set of analytics to really help them ensure they're getting the most value of what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think, Justin, maybe just to echo what you said, I think on the front end, it's to me the connectivity that we're seeing between a supply chain sourcing event and how that's being cascaded throughout an organization with their value analysis teams, their clinicians, their service line leaders, not just on the front end of putting together an agreement, but I think what's even more exciting is on the back end is our organizations start to manage to these agreements and look to optimize the value that's been put in place. How I think Aptitude's playing this foundational role to draw in all these constituents to really, ensure the sustainability of that contract. I think that's been really neat to see.
Yeah, that's very true. And we've seen it a lot more over the past few years. That's great. The next slide is really about now the supplier view of this. So again, it's very similar in nature. Again, helping them establish and grow their partnerships. And it also starts really with that general market perspective. I mean, all organizations are trying to figure out what everybody else is doing, right, to a certain degree, and then where can they improve. So that market perspective is unique, and we have some new analytical capabilities that we're forming with SG2 that we're incorporating into our offering. And then you dive in a little bit closer to that segment analysis. So if you're looking at the market, maybe you're looking at a particular state, particular region, particular zip code, really getting some insight to where you might stand up a sales team, how you might need to service. The customer insights, we're bringing it a little bit closer so that you can help manage that relationship with your customer. And then we have this set of competitive intelligence and analytics that we also offer. And altogether, we like to say it's from what the market perspective into the operating room, really.
I think we've always talked about, this neat capability we have to take a supplier from 30,000 feet to inside the procedure. And I think that's That's really unique in the marketplace. Yeah. But I think the other thing that I would maybe put a finer point on is I think seeing the suppliers being able to better manage their agreements. Time and time again, we see the supplier and provider do all this work up front to put an agreement in place. The contract gets signed, and both parties kind of move on to the next task, if you will. And I think what we've seen in the industry is the real value in connectivity and partnership comes after the contract signed. I think that's really where those suppliers that are using the data, using the analytics, they're really seeing a better experience, right, between their customers. So I think that's really something that's been core to our value prop and will continue to be core to the value prop.
Yeah, that's true. And the supplier one thing that's not on the slide, but I know we've talked about too, is the importance of that GPO agreement.
I think for us as an organization, that's foundational. But I think what we've also been afforded the opportunities that businesses come together is really to layer on these capabilities, again, in a programmatic fashion, in concert with a GPO agreement, to really allow us to be a more active participant in ensuring the growth of those agreements. So I think we've got some exciting things that we're doing to differentiate even the GPO based on these capabilities we have as an organization, how we've really brought together those capabilities.
Yeah, great. And then, I know we've talked about change, right? We've talked about the investment. Maybe could you elaborate on kind of what we've been doing?
Yeah, no, I know that James and Jessica are going to talk more about this in the program, but we continue to make significant investments in the technology, really to continue to enhance the experience for both a provider and a supplier. So wanted to get an opportunity to run through just a couple. First of all, really, we've expanded our clinical category schemas. This has been really, really important for us, especially as we've gotten into more clinically sensitive categories. We've also amplified the Vizient enterprise-wide cross-referencing database. And I think this is something that's really exciting for the industry at large, really with the idea to create a single portal where members and suppliers can access, upload, and assess crosses. So that's really, I think, exciting again for the industry, and then really have made significant upgrades to our create, execute, and manage screens, really providing more data and more insights, really with expanded download capabilities. And then the next section I would highlight really is the investment beyond the core elements. So Justin, I know we've talked about the SME resources to support both the providers and suppliers. This is something that's been, I think, really core to our success over the past several years, just given how we've evolved, I think, our positioning in the market, especially as we get to more of a category management approach. We've redesigned our customer service center, which has been a really important element to help support our providers and suppliers. And then, the other thing that, Justin, you've really spearheaded in our business is this relentless pursuit of getting customer experience focus. And really, at the end of the day, that is what has shaped our roadmap, where we put our investments in the technology. I think that's something that is just so critically important to the lifeblood of our business as it relates to where we continue to put our focus, our energy, and our investments.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it really is. It amazes me, I think, every time we do this show, because we're always advancing and offering more, and it's all very well received, by the customers.
Yep.
All right, well, that about does it for our open. I hope you guys were able to learn a little more about where we're headed. And of course, stay tuned for this whole show to learn additional details. Maybe just a quick review of some of the points we wanted to emphasize. Aptitude is more than just a technology. Aptitude is not just about signing contracts, and significant repositioning and expansion are coming. So it's not your parents' aptitude anymore. So just ask them, right? Before we advance, let's have a quick look at our agenda, which again, action-packed, and we're very excited. Next up is our general session with Simmer and Eric, two influential leaders in our industry. They're going to share more details about Vizient's strategy and Aptitude's role as a category management solution, but I know you've spent some time talking with them, so it should be pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to really be a nice complement to what we went through at a broader enterprise level for Vizient. So I think it's going to give the audience a really good perspective of how Aptitude and the category management approach is really fitting into the broader enterprise strategy. So I'm excited about it.
That's great. And then we're going to really take a deep dive. We've talked about our capabilities, but let's really show you some of those capabilities and the results. So some market trends led by Amy and Jeff. And then really what has become a custom is that we hear from the customer side of things, how providers and suppliers are leveraging data, the technology, the expertise to really manage their strategies. And then we're going to announce our user rewards, which is great. Everyone's very excited about that. And then we'll end on probably one of our more popular segments. Really, is looking into the technology specific enhancements planned or recently released and also planned, which you kind of talked about the investments. It really ties in nicely with that. So a great lineup. And again, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules to be with us today.